Welcome to Haunted Homebodies, where Halloween isn't just a day, it's a lifestyle. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Sarah, and we're your guides through the delightfully dark corners of comfort horror.
Welcome back to Haunted Homebodies, and this is an episode that's not about the Scream franchise, right? Why am I wearing my Scream? I'm like, wait.
We can't let it go. Just like we couldn't let go of Stranger Things after we did our Stranger Things episodes, we can't let go of Scream.
I literally was like, oh, we're recording Scream tonight. I need to wear my cardigan. I haven't worn it yet.
I mean, for the
I've lost my mind.
6 weeks we have been talking about Scream. Thank you, all of you, for sticking with us through that.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun though.
It was.
I would do it all over again. I would.
Can relive it anytime.
Well, despite what I'm wearing, we are kicking off a new theme. And the new theme is Snowbound, which is perfect because I had another snowstorm today where I live, and apparently I'm going to get a foot of snow, I think, on Monday. So in a couple of days.
That.
Yeah. So are you missing the snow down there in Texas?
I do miss the snow down here a little bit. It was 77 degrees outside. It was beautiful, but also it's February. I don't need it to feel like that right now.
That's so nice though. You always want what you don't have.
It's very true.
But it was so magical, looking out my little sunroom windows today with the big snowflakes falling in the barn in the backdrop. And it's not my barn, I don't farm, but it's back there.
It's even better. That barn is not your responsibility. It just gets to look picturesque out your window.
Exactly. It is totally ideal.
So New England.
It is. But to kick off our Snowbound theme, we are going to be talking about perhaps the snowiest story in all of history, and a pretty dark one at that, because we are a horror podcast after all. So this episode is not going to be really paranormal at all. I ended up going down an even deeper rabbit hole than I anticipated, researching the Donner Party, and was like, okay, this just has to be its own episode. But I think it's going to be interesting enough to hold its own, to stand alone here.
I would argue that we are a loosely defined podcast. It's more of a vibe. It's more of a vibe.
Cozy. This is a cozy horror vibe. So with that being said, we are talking about the Donner Party, which, as most of the civilized world knows, that means it's going to involve some discussions of death, grief, cannibalism. But I will say that we're not going to go into any gratuitous detail. We're cozy horror, right? I'm going to mention it because it happened and it's part of the story, but we're not going to get too deep into the details. But that's out there if you're interested.
I'm sure there's 1,000 podcasts that have.
I have listened to things. I have read things that I will not pass on to you in today's episode. But the story itself is incredible. It's so much more than the cannibalism, but also if that's not your thing and you need to skip over today's episode, totally understand. We'll see you soon.
The other side.
We'll see you on the next one. So I have actually been digging into research for this episode for weeks, and it is largely focused on the history, as I said today, but I'm barely kind of getting into the surface of the story here. So I did want to plug a book that I read in case anyone wants to get the full details if they're just really intrigued by this story. So I read The Indifferent Stars Above: The Harrowing Saga of the Donner Party by Daniel James Brown. So for any nonfiction girlies out there who just love a good narrative nonfiction, jam-packed with layers upon talk about a rabbit hole. This guy loved a rabbit hole. He's let me tell you about all the details of what was in the wagon and everyone's lineage and profession, and it's very, very detailed and super, super interesting. So definitely grab that if you want to learn more about the story. But to begin, Why don't we orient ourselves a bit? So, the Donner Pass is kind of the area we're going to be focusing on for our two Donner Party, Donner Pass episodes. So, this is a mountain pass, and I realized I didn't know exactly what a mountain pass is, but it's pretty much just what it sounds like. It's a passable area through a mountain. So, it's the way that you go to try to cut through a mountain pass, which is a thing that they had to do back in the pioneer days. They just kind of had to haul ass up the mountain and find the easiest route through. Um,
I'm gonna make my singular Oregon Trail reference here because
yeah.
that is just immediately what I picture in my head when you talk about a mountain pass and them needing a pass
Uh-huh.
through the mountain.
Oh yeah.
And I
Oh yeah.
will bring my level of seriousness up from there.
No,
Thank
no, no.
you.
I mention the video game shortly, so
Great.
hang on. Don't worry.
Okay.
You are right on par there. Uh, so the Donner Pass itself is located in California, so we're kind of near the Nevada border. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with U.S. geography, we are on the westernmost part of the country, on the easternmost part of that state. That's not confusing at all, but Google it. Google it if you need clarification. The Donner Pass itself reaches about 7,000 feet of altitude and it carves its way through the Sierra Nevada mountain range. So we are in the area kind of like Lake Tahoe. A lot of people know Lake Tahoe. It's
Yeah.
not far from there.
Okay.
So what does that bring to mind? Snow. Lots and lots
Absolutely.
of snow. Hence our snowbound episode. I actually first became intrigued with the Donner Pass and like this whole area on a cross country road trip because that's a thing that I do kind of frequently. This one was with Kimmy back in 2017. Shout out Kimmy. She's a podcast listener. And we decided to stop at this beautiful little vista. We were just kind of driving along. It's like, that lake looks really nice. Let's pull over. And we had no idea where we were. And so I'm pulling up my phone. I'm looking at Google Maps and I'm like, Donner Lake.
Oh
Huh.
no.
Okay, that's interesting. So I'm like, okay, let me Google this further. And of course, it's just like cannibalism. Cannibalism, because that's the
Just what you
only
want
thing
on a road trip.
that's the only thing, right, that anyone can think of when they hear the words the Donner Party. So I think in a small part, I want this episode to illuminate the story as a whole and kind of like share with people that there is just like so much more to the story, and it actually is like super interesting, and that like that part is kind of like it's like jarring because it's so taboo and so hard to like imagine yourselves like in that situation or getting to that point, but it will be easier to imagine it when you hear what these people have gone through because it is like absolutely batshit crazy.
I bet.
So the Donner Pass was named after, of course, the Donner Party. It gets really confusing because learning about the Donner Party, everything was named after them after the fact. But while they were there and it's
Oh,
happening, it was not named after them because they were just
right.
people passing through. They were not infamous at this point. So I'm going to call it like Donner Pass, Donner Lake. I may slip up from time to time because I am a human person with a job, but I'm going to try to keep it not so confusing. So let me know because we're going to have like a lot of players here, a lot of names,
Okay.
and a lot of facts. So I'll try to keep it straight, but whew, let's see if we're ready to get into it. Okay. So the Donner Party, we're going to meet them at the middle-ish of their quest, the real start of like the hard part of their journey. So we're traveling back to 1846. A group of 87 immigrants, including individuals from 10 different families, gathered supplies, packed up their wooden covered wagons, and began the slow and arduous journey from Illinois to Missouri, and then traveled an additional 2,000 miles from Missouri to California,
That's crazy.
primarily on foot. mind you.
Wow.
Yes, like they just
Wow.
walked across the country. So this was not an unusual journey at the time. If you are thinking of the video game as Sarah was, the
Yeah.
Oregon Trail, you are on the right track. Like this was the pioneer days. Like people were going on the Oregon Trail. Yes, Evan, I said it again. From I will not stop. I will not stop.
People from Oregon are very specific about how you pronounce their state.
Uh, I only say Oregon in the context of the Oregon Trail, and I
I'll
stand by
allow
it.
it. You hear
Thank
that,
you.
Evan? I allowed it.
We're gonna let it slide. So many settlers were moving west at this point. The West
Mhm.
was kind of not, it was one, I guess you might say, I think, but it really wasn't heavily populated because it was really
Mhm.
hard to get to at this point.
Sure.
And you had to, go through all of this that you're going to hear about, which, after hearing this, you may wonder like why anyone would choose to do this. And part of it is like they just didn't know. But
Mm.
things in like Illinois, Missouri had its challenges, and that is part of what was pushing people to find another place to live. So they were dealing with things like malaria and typhus outbreaks, and there was also an ongoing economic crisis. So to head west, it promised like more land, better weather, and then this other amazing bonus, less government oversight. Doesn't that sound nice? I mean,
Oh,
back in the day, it's like they were over there and you're over there. So, like, they can't
right.
mess with you as much.
It's so
I'm going to
interesting because
California.
this is, like less than 100 years after our country was founded
Yeah.
because we didn't like the oversight from across the seas
Right,
and
right, right. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like the government's awful. I don't know. Just always, all the time. Anywho, if you, like Sarah and I, also grew up killing off your friends that you were mad at on the Oregon Trail video game, then you know that on a good day, this journey was treacherous, okay? And these weren't just like softies, like if me and Sarah like got in a wagon and tried to walk across the country, like we'd be toast. We'd be
Oh,
toast. We're
yes.
so soft. Like I want my pillow, like I want my orthopedic pillow. I want my like comfy everything.
Do you know how many
All of
water
my
bottles I
goods.
have sitting next to me right now just for
Probably
this
3.
podcast?
Probably 3.
It is more than one. It's more than one.
Like no, these people were not like us. They were pioneer folk. They were like
Yeah.
farmers, workers, even the like kind of rich snobbier people. They still were like pretty sturdy. Like they knew what they were signing up for. They're not like prissy soft people. These are like hardy folks heading out west. So
Mm.
they for the most part seemed like okay, we're relatively prepared. We know what this journey is sort of going to be like. But let's remember that the Donner Party was choosing to head to California, not to Oregon. Oregon was a little bit more established because of the Oregon Trail. Like many people had
Mhm.
just already been traveling there over the past several years. It was tried and true. We kind of knew what we were up against. It was going to be a hard journey, but it was survivable for the most part. People still died relatively frequently from disease, injury,
Right.
particularly children, just because like the parents were off just, walking along, minding the oxen, doing whatever other daily things they needed to do. And kids just would like run off and go missing or they come across a rattlesnake. Like they're just like so
Oh,
many
yeah.
hazards. Yeah, they're just like all this stuff. Or like fall into a river and drown and nobody knows. Like it was just like
Oh,
treacherous.
gosh.
And this is just like the normal the
Yeah.
normal way. Unfortunately, the Donner Party did not go the normal way. So now I'm going to introduce you to a book called The Emigrant's Guide to California and Oregon by a not so great guy named Lansford Hastings. This is the part of the story, Sarah, where we get the vibe of a whole bunch of people basing a huge life-changing life-changing choice on like a travel blog post is
A
basically
travel
what
blog
happened.
post, like, without, like, comments underneath.
Exactly. Like, no, well, they kind of got comments that they ignored, but we'll get to that. So in our
Okay.
story, there will be several villains, and I would say with pretty good confidence that Lansford Hastings is one. He's not like through and through evil, but he was not great. So
I swear to you, when you first said that name, the first thing that popped into my head was that is a great villain name.
it is a good villain
This is
name. Like
such a good villain
there
name.
is so much in this story that's like straight out of a movie. Like there are
No.
parts of this where you'll be like, I'm rolling my eyes because this movie is so unrealistic. Like that would never happen. This is history. This is history that I'm reporting, everybody. Okay. So, Lansford Hastings, he was a former lawyer turned adventurer. Like, he really is giving like influencer vibes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, he just was like, I'm not kind of, I don't know if he got like kicked out of law or like whatever, but he just was like, I'm gonna become an adventurer now and I'm gonna write a book about it. So his book wasn't a total waste. It did have some sound advice. Like it had some things that were like actually true and useful. One of the things was to not start the journey west after April due to the increasing likelihood that by the time you got to the snowy mountains surrounding the Donner Pass, they would be like almost impassable due to the amount of snow that like rapidly falls in that area.
Oh no.
Unfortunately for the Donner Party, they did not heed this warning. They took his word on other stuff, but this they were like, and they ended up setting out from Missouri at the end of May. Not great.
You
So
know,
that was
they were from Illinois. Like they knew about
about winter.
snow.
Yes, yes. And they kind of like dicked around a little bit. That's kind of rude to
Mm.
say. Like someone died and they like loved her. It was like a grandma figure. It was like one of the family's grandmas, and they had like a 5-day funeral for her. So it it's rude to say that they dicked around, but like they were like not like showing haste, They were like doing like the full like celebration of life. They weren't like we're on a deadline people. So there were like things like that they did where they do as a group like need to take some ownership for their
Yeah.
own part in playing this, but a lot of
Mhm.
the stuff just was not their fault, and it was just like a perfect storm of like all of
Okay.
these things going wrong. um One of them, like I said, being this friend Lansford Hastings. So he, in addition to having like a few good things to say, he largely, I would say almost certainly they would not have gotten into the situation that they were in if it wasn't for something he included in his book. He literally led them down the wrong path because he included a supposed shortcut in his book that he had never traversed himself. He looked at a map and thought, that might be a little bit shorter to go that way. Just like a little looky. He's like, maybe try going, go in a straight line. Don't go up and around. That seems too long. Just go across. He had never done it. And he was like, seems like it'd be fine to me.
This is giving men who apply to jobs where they have like none of the experience.
Yes. And then like disaster happened. Like this is very high
Yes.
stakes though. Like people died.
Yes.
People died. Okay. Oh gosh. This plot is like it's like stressing me out. I already know how it ends. You know how it ends. It doesn't end well. It doesn't end well. But this man literally told them, he called it the Hastings cutoff, of course, named it after himself, because this is what all the stupid men in this story do. And there's more than one of them. So we're going to blame Hastings a lot for this, but
Okay.
because we live in a good society, have our spiritual guides looking out for us. The Donner Party was then harbinged so hard on their
Well,
way to the Hastings cutoff, okay? As I mentioned, Hastings was not the only villain in the story. So this whole group that we're calling the Donner Party wasn't actually called the Donner Party at this time. It wasn't called really anything. It was just like a
right.
group of different families heading out west. So they kind of had a de facto leader at this point, and his name was James Reed. He was a businessman and an asshole. Among other things, he's another complex character. I will say that for all of the villains, except for maybe one that we'll get to at the end, they have like some redeeming arcs or qualities. Like they're not just like a pure evil, like I'm just trying to like get rich and kill people and have
Okay.
power. Like it's not like Sauron or something out here, but still like
For the best.
arrogant men making horrible decisions and then a lot of people having to suffer for them. So not great.
Okay.
So if you're imagining James Reed to be like kind of like a haughty rich dude, he doesn't want to chip a nail, like he has terrible leadership skills. It's not really him. He was actually like kind of rugged. He was a war veteran. He had fought in the Black Hawk War. He was a family man. He did like it clearly throughout the story, like care a lot about his family. But as they were traveling towards the Hastings cutoff, like pretty much anyone who was going in the other direction who had just come off of it was like, do not go there. Do not. Okay. So they passed several people who were like, it's terrible. Like, you won't be able to make it. Like, don't do it. And
This
then
is like, I'm not even sure harbinge is the right word for it. Like, it's just like evidence-based.
blatant. I know. It's just like an excuse for me to be able to say that they were harbinge. Then a man who couldn't find a first name, but they called him Kleinman. He fought alongside James Reed in the Black Hawk War. So he was like a man that he knew and fought alongside. He had just come over going the other way through the Hastings cutoff. He described rocky cliff faces, steep trails. He said they were nearly impossible to traverse, especially he was seeing that they had women, they had children, they had 3,000-pound like wagons and oxen. He's like, the oxen aren't even going to be able to get up there, like let alone these wagons. So even Lansford Hastings himself, he was like out there. He was out there. He was out a little bit ahead of them. He had gone,
adventurer.
he had gone through his own cutoff and he was like, I done goofed. It's like, it's bad. It's bad. So he had left notes on the side of the trail being like, wait here for me. Like, I'll show you how to get over it. Like, I don't think you'll make it without me. Like, talk to you soon. So he was planning on he was like with a group leading them through. And he was actually like relatively helpful. Like, he wasn't like the most useless person. He was able to like kind of show people a better way. But the group, like, they never ended up connecting with him. I don't know if he ever didn't like end up coming back or like what happened. But I'm just like imagining these little notes like on the side of the road being like, hee, don't go on the cutoff. My bad. Okay. So they're getting like harbinged / straight up warned, like, don't do this. But the group just kept forging on. And only one member of the party finally took a stand against James Reed and was like, this is reckless. Why are we doing this? Why don't we stick to the tried and true path? Why aren't you listening to like a respected war veteran who is your friend instead of this like travel blogger who we don't even know, who also left a note being like, that was an error on my part. Okay. And this amazing person, her name was Tamsin Donner. I love Tamsin, Sarah.
Good name.
I gotta say it. Yeah, I've never met a Tamsin before.
No.
But she was the wife of George Donner, and I literally read a whole article about Tamsin because I was like, I've never, like, in everything else that I read about the Donner Party, aside from the book, of course, like, they just don't really talk about her. And she was, like, the one person who, like, seemed like she had a good head on her shoulders, who was, like, an adult and had, like, any sort of say. She actually was one of the people who originally was like organizing the group together to like make the journey out west. So she was the wife of George Donner. He was also very well liked in the group. He eventually became the group's leader when they became the Donner Party. Sorry. She was never, of course, allowed to fulfill any real leadership role due to patriarchal norms at the of the time. Cool. Yeah, because she was a woman, and women just are too emotional when they make their decisions. Am I snarky enough on this podcast episode? This is like oh man, women need to be in charge. Anyway, she felt she still felt like because she had organized this party and was like a decent person and also like her whole family was in this group, she felt responsible for the safety and the well-being of the group.
It's fair.
So I want to give you a little bit more background on her because there's a lot of like bad guys in the story and a lot of bad things that happen, but she's just awesome. So we're going to talk about her for a minute. I hope that's okay.
Yes.
So Tamsin Eustace, she was born in Newburyport, Massachusetts. So she's another
Aw,
Massachusetts galley.
love it.
Galley. She's a
Galley.
little galley. She's a galley gal. I've been sick all week, everybody. Okay, again, we didn't even like bitch about how we both had the flu last week.
I know.
Who
It
are
was
we?
rough, guys.
We're
It was
so
rough.
resilient. Yeah, no, we haven't even talked to each other in weeks. This was just really weird. Anywho, Tamsin. So she was born in Newburyport, Massachusetts on November 1st, 1801. So she's a Scorpio queen. She had a lifelong love of books and learning and then naturally went on to become a school teacher before
Cute.
moving north to Maine for her first teaching job. She's like a little soul sister to me. I just
Yes.
love her. So after being offered another job with greater financial stability down in North Carolina, she ended up leaving kind of like the familiarity of the Northeast and proximity to her family to go on a new little adventure.
Good
So
for her.
I know. So by 1829, she was single and a committed career woman. So at this time, remember, most women were getting married at about age 20. Tamsin was still living her best single life at age 28. And not because,
Loved her.
I know, not because she just was like, I don't need a man. Like, I have a career. I'm doing my thing. But if a man comes along, fine. And then a man did come along, okay? It's about to get sad, though. So she did fall in love. She got married. I know I'm going to just right do this. Blip, blip. I was like, I don't even want to include it, but I just like, I feel like you got to bear witness to people's pain sometimes. It's important. So she married a man named Tully Dozier, also kind of a fun name. In their second year of marriage, they welcomed a son. And then, like, her world, like, completely came crashing down.
Oh, no.
There was an influenza epidemic, and she lost her husband, her son, and her new baby all within a few months of each other.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like, absolutely devastating. Like, I don't even know how you go on, but I guess she just had this, like, amazing resilience and was just in like a depressed hole for a while, but then found out that her brother had also lost his wife and was trying like having trouble raising his children and asked her to come help like take care of his children. And so she then ended up moving to Illinois to help him because she is the best. What this woman went through is just like unbelievable. So most of the information I'm sharing about Tamsin is from the article, because we're on a first name basis, me and Tamsin. It's from the article written. It would be way too confusing also if I called her Donner.
No, we cannot do that.
No. So it's from an article written by Mark McLaughlin from Sierra College titled Tamsin Donner, Dream to Legacy. And I want to share a couple of quotes that described her. Perfect type of Eastern lady, kind, sociable, and exemplary, ever ready to assist neighbors and even strangers in distress.
Cute.
This is not a quote, but she was described as petite, about 5 feet tall, weighing less than 100 pounds.
Whoa.
She is a teeny Tamsin. Teeny Tamsin.
Tamsin.
Little teeny Tamsin. Oh, sorry, Tamsin. I'm like 6 feet tall, so I guess I get to talk about people being teeny tiny.
She is.
So I know. Rip. She would have been long ripped anyway, but it's not a good story for Tamsin, unfortunately. But things got a little bit better for her again. In Illinois, she ended up meeting George Donner. He was twice widowed, poor fella.
Wow.
And here was a quote describing him. He was a big man. I'll just read it because it's a quote. I was just going to ad-lib it. I'm like, it's a quote. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, ready? Quote, big man, fully 6 feet tall with black hair shot with silver. He was of cheerful disposition and easy temperament. Neighbors came to him for advice and sympathy, end quote. I mean, that was like the same thing, but like in the jumbo version. Like,
what
can you
a
just
cute
imagine
couple.
them? I know, they're just like the little and they're just like cute and
Oh.
helping their neighbors. For people who don't have the video, I'm just like making weird noises, but there were gestures that went with that, which don't make it less weird. But yeah, they just seem like the cutest. Oh, so sweet.
Adorable.
So George had several children from his previous marriages, and then George and Tamsin went on to have 3 of their own daughters, Frances, Georgia, and Eliza, all great names. In a letter to her sister, Tamsin wrote, quote, "I find my husband a kind friend who does all in his power to promote my happiness, and I have as fair a prospect for a pleasant old age as anyone."
Oh no. See, that's where it's so nice, but it's
The
so
foreshadowing.
foreboding.
I know. Then I wrote, "This is so tragic to read knowing where the story is headed."
Oh.
So her husband, George, he was 62 when they started.
Wow.
62. So he
62
is
back in the
Yes.
mid 1800s.
Yep. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to go walk across the country now." At age 62 with my new wife who I love, and we're so happy, and he was successful. It was one of those things where like you're like, oh, you wish they could have just been like, we've got it good here. But I wonder, I didn't read this, but I wonder if because they had both lost loved ones to disease, if like with the outbreaks that were going on, if they were being told like there's good weather and less disease and better stuff, like maybe they thought that it would be safer for their families out there. I'm kind of just speculating, but I mean, from what I saw, it basically seemed like a healthy ambition is kind of what brought them. Like they were successful.
Yeah.
He was a successful landowner, and there was more land to be had
Yeah.
out there. I know. Certainly doesn't seem worth it at this point, but
Nope.
hindsight, as they say. So that's my little side quest about Tamsin. Let's get back to the doom and gloom. She was, of course, making her last attempt. We're back on the trail here. She's making her attempt to be like, let's not go on the Hastings cutoff. She's shut down. And this is just like, it's so ridiculous because this is the part where you're like, if we were watching this, like I said earlier, if we were watching this as a movie, wouldn't you be like, there is no way these people would be this dumb? Like, that's why in the movies they're harbingers, because it has to be kind of subtle for us to like suspend our disbelief and
Right.
for people to continue down this path. Like you said, they were beyond harbinge. They were told like, do not do this.
Yes.
So we can't even say like, oh, they were led astray, they were given misinformation. It's like, well, they got new information from people who like firsthand were like, don't do this. So unfortunately,
in my head right now, I'm just picturing the man at the theater when you went to see, I don't remember which Scream movie, who was like, Dewey, no.
Yeah. James, come on.
Yeah. That man would have a lot to say.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. I wish he was here.
I might actually yell at the screen for this one.
James, no, go back. They didn't. Okay. They didn't. So they went on the Hastings cutoff. How do you think that worked out for them?
Not well, actually. My guess is not well.
No, it didn't go well. It didn't go well. And remember that this whole time I created this story wanting to talk about just what happened at the Donner Pass. We are not even close to there yet.
This feels important, though.
Oh,
feels like important context.
We have not. Yes, it is why that whole scenario really came to be. So this shortcut ended up being, and I'm saying I should put shortcut in quotes because no. Just no. It was indeed a treacherous mountain path. It was almost impassable. And then it was followed by a trek through a literal desert, a salt desert. Okay.
What? I'd like to bring up my multiple water bottles and beverages again.
Right. So they've already been walking like a while at this point. They're tired. They're stressed. Now they have to basically go over this mountain pass, and as they were warned, the oxen could not pull up the wagon. So in order to continue to bring their belongings, and remember, this is everything that they have. There's no U-Haul, there's no truck. This is their entire, like, all of their money, all of their belongings, everything. Okay, so in order to get them up over the mountain, the men basically had to like pull it up themselves.
Oh
And
my
the
God.
oxen were like led over, and then they had to pull the wagons up and over over themselves. And James Reed was like up the hill a little bit at one point, and he's like, "Oh, maybe like try over there. It looks like it might be like a little easier to go." It wasn't. It wasn't. Okay, so they go up that
Shocker.
way. They eventually make it after like a tremendous amount of hardship. It took them 16 days to make it up over this mountain.
Shortcut.
After they make it, no, we're not even done with the shortcut.
Ugh.
After they make it, guess what James Reed does? This fucking guy.
Oh no.
He names it Reed's Gap.
James Reed.
Come on, man.
No.
Come on,
No.
man. Yeah. They had carved their own little like worse path alongside the cutoff. Called it Reed's Gap.
Cool.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Way
So
to go, dude.
they made it over the mountains. Yeah, what a legacy left behind. They made it over the Wasatch Mountains. Okay. And so they made it over the mountains, and what do they come upon but the Great Salt Desert? According to the good old Emigrant's Guide by Lansford Hastings, this was supposed to be about 40 miles of desert. Not too bad, okay? It ended up being 100 miles in the desert.
Cool.
So they had nothing. The wagons were still having to be like basically pulled by themselves because the oxen like didn't have water. They didn't have much food. They couldn't pull. They were like barely making it. Like the animals in this story too. Really, it's just so sad. Like the amount of suffering that was going on. Eventually, most of the party made it through the cutoff and rejoined the trail, the good old Oregon Trail. And in the end, you ready for it? The cutoff took them 68 days in total. If they had stayed on the tried and true path, it would have taken them just 37.
How much like infighting or just like little passive aggressive mutters under your breath do you think happened after, like day 30 when it was clear they were nowhere near where they were supposed to be?
I love when you just like set me up for my next bullet point. So before I get
This
there,
is so much fun.
just to round out the fuckery that was this cutoff, it ended up adding 125 miles to their journey and set them back a month. And remember, they already were leaving a month too late. Month too late.
Yep.
So yes, at this point, how do we think we were feeling about James Reed as a party? Not good.
No.
Not good. Okay.
I bet Tamsin was feeling real smug, but she wasn't saying anything.
I know. She was like, I told you, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
I bet she was so muttery.
Mm-hmm.
Even if this hadn't happened and he hadn't led them on this disastrous cutoff for literally no reason at all, their nerves were already all completely fried.
Sure.
Like, this is just the longest journey. It was just made so much worse. They're exhausted. They're dehydrated. A few have already died from like the many, many hazards that I've already mentioned on the trail. And I've just like, named a few. There was a whole paragraph. A whole paragraph of like ways that you could die on the trail in this book. It was really intense.
I played the video game, Ashley.
Yes,
I know.
There's a variety. So James Reed then just like add to the misery. So he's I think feeling the heat a little bit, knowing that like people are pissed off at him, maybe caring a little bit, I don't know. But then he ended up having an altercation with another member of the group. So his name was John Snyder, and according to reports, he was known to be kind of young, good-looking, fun.
Ooh, John Snyder.
Maybe James Reed was a little jelly. I don't know. But something like along the lines of John Snyder's reins got caught up in James Reed oxen. It was very like pioneer drama. Like they just got into like a little bit of a tangle, and like under normal circumstances, you would have just been like, let's untangle and like move on with our lives. It's not what happened. Things escalated very quickly. James Reed confronted him, and then I think John Snyder kind of like escalated things back, and then James Reed stabbed him, and John Snyder died.
Yikes.
Yes, he murdered him in front of the whole group. So they were all like, Okay. So it's the 1840s, right? We're not calling 911. We're not
Yeah.
like dropping him off at the sheriff's station. So the group had to decide, like, what do we do? Like, we're not gonna just like keep going as if you didn't just like murder someone in the party. Like, there has to
I'm
be
glad. I'm
some
glad
sort
for
of law and
that.
order, so some sort of consequence. So they were choosing between killing him and banishing him. And they were kind of like hemming and hawing. One character who we'll get to later was like fashioning a makeshift gallows. He was like ready to kill him. Um,
No.
and eventually the group mercifully decided on banishment. So
That feels
bye,
right to
James.
me. That feels
Bye.
great.
Good luck out there.
Yes.
Yes, they sent him off with nothing, I think. And then his daughters like snuck out in the night and gave him like some crackers and a gun, I think. I think they just sent him off with his horse and were like, good luck.
Okay.
But then the daughters gave him like I think a gun to hunt and some crackers. And it was their dad. I
Okay.
get
I
it.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he off he went. We'll hear about him more again later though. We're not done. We're not done with him, but we're done with him being the absolute worst. So now we're actually finally approaching the Donner Pass. We've made it. We've made it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So in theory, it's like, okay, we've got the last push. So this is another
Yeah.
mountain range that they have to get through. It's going to be difficult, but it's kind
Okay.
of like the last big obstacle. And, basically you're in California, right? And you just have to like go over the pass and then you're in like the nice part of California that's not just like a snowy winter wonderland all the time. So at this point, they had appointed new group leaders, and they
Smart
decided,
choice.
let's just pick guys that we like. So they picked George Donner and his brother Jacob Donner. They weren't brutish or arrogant. They just were good guys. And I think they were like, we need to try something new
Thank
to
goodness.
get a new vibe because we just can't deal with any more arrogant buttheads anymore. So they
Same.
reached, I know, right? They reached Donner Lake and were preparing to cross the Sierra Nevada mountains through what we now call the Donner Pass. At this point, the group had dwindled from 87 to 81. As I've mentioned over and over again, like, exhausted doesn't even begin to cover
I'm
what these people were
sure.
feeling. They had lost like a lot of their oxen. They had to abandon things along the way just to make it to this point. So they already were suffering. It was already
Mhm.
looking really grim. They're like, how are we going to do this? And then the snow started.
Oh no.
Yes. It kept snowing and snowing and snowing. The first storm lasted 8 days.
Oh.
Just kept dumping on them. And this was only October 7th.
Oh
That's
God.
Yes. So typically the snow would start there around the beginning of November.
That sounds
So
more reasonable.
they were really late arriving and the snow was really early. So, and it was basically a difference of about 2 days. So think of like all of the things that could have gone better, that could have saved them those two
Yeah.
days, and they would have made it over the mountain in time and have just been fine. And like we wouldn't
Yeah.
be talking about them right now. There would be no Donner Lake, no Donner Pass. It would just be Truckee Lake still.
It's very upsetting to think about.
I know. 2 days. Not a lot. Not a lot. But they basically, like, with all of this snow just dumping on them, they were so weak. They were so cold. They were now getting, like, literally buried in snow. Like, they were just like, we can't go on. We can't go on
Yeah.
any further. So they had to make camp alongside the lake. So they basically decided that, like, we're just going to have to just try to make it to springtime or just, like, I don't know. I don't think they even had a plan. They're just like, we just can't move. That's all we know is we can't move on.
Oh.
So it was a snowy Halloween, snowy and treacherous. And at this point, things were becoming more urgent, life or death, because now they're truly becoming snowbound,
You're
and
right.
there's nowhere kind of in or out for them to go. They're just stuck here. And the snow did not seem to be relenting. They had been feeding oxen kind of from like pine branches that were above the snow line, and even those were becoming scarce like very quickly.
Mm.
There just wasn't a lot of roughage around.
Mhm.
And they were also hesitant to kill their oxen because at this point they still have hope that like we're going to make it and
Right.
we can't just like bring all of this stuff ourselves. They brought the oxen for a reason. So, in addition to that, they also were out of salt, which like doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you kill an oxen, like you have to then eat it within a few
Yes.
days because
Mhm.
they don't have salt to preserve the meat, so it would have just kind of been a
Mhm.
waste anyway. So they are struggling. But remember, they're hardy. They're like, we've made it this far, we are not giving up. So they actually started building like literal cabins. Like the families just started like whipping up cabins. They were cutting down the
Wow.
trees. They built like log cabins for themselves. And although that sounds like kind of dreamy, let me say,
In one way it does, yes.
right? When you like forget what we're talking about and you're like, ah, a cabin in the snowy mountains by a
Yeah.
beautiful lake. These people were slowly starving to death. There were just children crying everywhere. Everyone
Oh,
was
no.
damp and cold. The pine trees that they had managed to cut off to make the fires just were like filling the cabins with this like billowy, smoky nastiness.
Oh.
They couldn't bathe at this point. There was nowhere to bathe. They would have
Oh,
frozen to death.
yeah.
In order to relieve themselves, they had like a chamber pot of sorts, or they would have to like tromp out into the blizzard to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
Those were the
uh-huh.
options. So they were like stinky, wet, stressed, starving, and their food sources were just going like down, 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 like
Okay.
each day. Eventually, they were like, okay, well, we just have to eat the oxen. So the families
Yeah.
that had them made that choice. Not everybody had them. Not everyone was even part of a family. There were just like a couple loners.
Mhm.
And some people were being relatively generous, but like, they were like looking out for their kids, their wives, like they're still
Yeah.
being like kind of protective of their own resources. And
Uh-huh.
also because they were all so fucking sick of each other, they had like really spread out. Like they weren't just like a little cluster of cabins. They were like miles apart. They're like, I'm
Oh.
gonna go 2 miles down this way. You go two
Okay,
miles
yeah.
down that way.
Yeah.
Like it was
Mhm.
kind of a little bit of like every family for themselves. So they were still trying to hunt, of course, but we all know how hunting is. We did play the video game.
We
It's
did.
not easy.
We
I don't
did.
think I ever
This is
killed a
very
single
hard.
thing. I don't
Yes.
think I killed one single thing on that game, now that I'm
It was
thinking
not what
about
I
it.
was good at. Nope.
Real life hunting might be a little bit easier for those who are qualified, but still, there just wasn't a lot. I mean, it's like the
Sure.
middle of winter and there's tons of snow. So occasionally they would catch like squirrels or mice. Like they were already at that level where they were just kind of like eating whatever they could get their hands on. And eventually, like, what they had to resort to is they had these, like, buffalo pelt blankets, and they would, like, rip off little pieces of the blanket and eat it like it was jerky, or sometimes, like,
Oh,
cook it up in,
no.
just put a pot of water, and they would just put the pelt in until it made this, like,
Oh,
gelatinous goo.
that's
It's
disgusting.
absolutely
Awful.
horrifying. So, just to, like, set the scene a little bit further, like, obviously, I've made it seem like it's, like, very snowy, right? There's a lot of snow,
Yeah.
but this was, like, truly shocking to me. A lot of snow meant 22 feet.
That is
22
a
feet.
lot of snow.
Like, that, like, scares me. That gives me, like, a visceral
Like,
reaction.
even today, that would be difficult to deal with in a lot of
Yes,
places.
absolutely. Uh, so, I mean, this was, like, snow that came a month early and also was just, like, a tremendously heavy snow year, like, so many things were going wrong, and the conditions were just, like, unrelenting, the food was just continuing to dwindle, and they were starting to realize that, like, they just weren't going to make it to spring,
Mm.
like, the numbers weren't crunching, like, there was no way that they're gonna make it, and then the first 2 members of the group died from, like, malnutrition or exposure or what
Oh,
have you.
no.
So that was beginning. So one of, the patriarchs of one of the families, a man named Franklin Graves, was like, just sit here any longer and just like wait for my family to starve. Like, we have to do something. So he started fashioning some like makeshift snowshoes. They were like
You
bending
go,
branches.
Franklin.
Yeah. And like making snowshoes. And this is now, we're about in like the middle of December. They had to wait. They're being strategic. It was snowing so much that they're like, we can't just keep like, it's just like all this fresh pow, you know? It's like
Yeah.
great for snowboarders. That's why like Lake Tahoe's so popular. But like, you don't want to be like snowshoeing on like fluffy fresh powder. That is
Right.
pretty much impossible. So they
Yes.
waited until there was a break in the snow. The temperature dropped. So like it was extra, extra cold. And they were like, that is when we have to go because it was like crustier. So a group
Sure.
of 17 men, women, and children then set out with their little makeshift snowshoes. There were a couple that followed suit that didn't have snowshoes. They didn't make it very far. They had to go back. They were like,
Mm.
just couldn't make it. Um, to as if you like, weren't feeling downtrodden enough about these poor people. This group, this little group of 17 people was later called the Forlorn Hope.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. So the snowshoes that Graves had made, like they were actually able to move. Like it was like kind of
Okay.
working. They were exhausted. It was treacherous. They were all weak, but like they were making some progress. Um, but also like now they were just out in the elements. They were out of
Right.
their like the cabins sucked kind of, but it still provided some degree of
Something,
warmth
yeah.
and protection. And many of them started suffering from snow blindness. Now, I didn't know this. I thought snow blindness was just like the phenomenon when you're like out in the sun and it reflects off the snow and you like can't see
So
temporarily.
you're about to tell me it's not that.
It is that, but it's also like when that happens for a prolonged period, it can cause like permanent damage to your eyes and actual like
Oh.
blindness. So they were like
Oh,
literally going
no.
blind to the point where then like at night they still can't see.
Ooh.
I didn't know that could happen, that it like it literally damages your retina.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
So yeah, they were like basically dying of exposure and going blind, and other really just a lot of a lot of really bad, like really messed up stuff happens to this group. But like we're just gonna sum it up to at some point they decided that they were going to cannibalize the dead. They had talked
Sure.
about it before anyone died. So
Okay.
that there's that. They were like, do we want to draw straws? I think they actually did draw straws in this group at one point, and the person who suggested drawing straws drew the short straw, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh.
But they ended up being like, we can't do it, we can't do it. But then someone died, and several people died in this group. And then they
Well.
decided to like kind of like, you take that person because that's not your family member. You take that person because it's not your family member.
Oh.
Yeah, and so that was kind of what happened initially. And then, food, if we want to call it that, ran out. And they eventually did resort to full on murder, not as a group, but an individual did.
Okay.
So, in a horrific but sadly unsurprising twist, given the current state of things in the US and our history, the group was eventually saved. There were a few remaining members who made it, and they were saved by a group of Native Americans who took them in almost immediately after they had murdered two Native American guides and eaten them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's so, and there's some grotesque details that are outside the scope of our cozy little podcast, so we'll just move
Okay.
on past that, but that is just really upsetting.
Upsetting.
Yes. In the end, just 8 of the 17 members of the Forlorn Hope completed the journey, but they did make it to Sacramento Valley in mid-January.
So this is gonna be like a very shallow comparison. But the show Yellow Jackets that I know you tried and did not watch, and I continue to watch even though it's gotten terrible.
Hmm.
It seems very clear to me that they took a lot of inspiration from this story.
Interesting.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes. I
Because this is like the
mean,
classic story of real life cannibalism. But there's a few
yeah.
others like that.
Yeah.
I was thinking it would be more inspired by, well, wasn't there like a plane crash, like a rugby team or
It's a
something?
soccer team, but there is a plane crash. So there's not so much of a journey except like one or two times, like, a small group will, like, try to get out and they can't, but, like,
Yeah.
a lot of it is very familiar to this
Interesting.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is it
Mhm.
really does read, like, very movie-esque. Like, it's
Yes.
hard to believe that all of this is real because it has, like, all of these character arcs and hope and forlorn hope, like, things
Yeah.
going thinking that, "Oh, we're gonna do this, and then this goes wrong, and then this goes wrong, and then this goes wrong." Like, it really is written like just a
Yes.
true myth.
Yes.
So, remember our buddy James Reed? He's coming back into
I
the story.
know.
It's not
No.
a bad thing, it's not a bad thing. So he
Okay.
if for anyone who needs a refresher, he's the dummy who convinced them to all go down the Hastings Cutoff,
Mhm.
basically leading them to to their doom,
Right.
and he was banished from the group after murdering someone during a little bit of a scuffle.
Seems fair.
Yeah, he had made it through. He had made it through the Sierra Nevadas. He was in California by October, so he missed this whole ordeal.
Wow.
And he kind of was just like, "Well, I got a little time on my hands before my family gets here." So he just went down and fought in the Mexican-American War. He's like, "I'm just gonna pop down,
Okay.
fight for the good fight." And then he came back to California and he's like, "Crap, my family's not here still. Like, this isn't good. Something's wrong." Like, he knew at this point
Uh-huh.
winter would have
Sure.
come if they weren't through by now, like something had gone wrong. So he's like, "I'm gonna continue my redemption arc here. Okay, I gotta I gotta gather some support." So he actually like mustered enough support to go on a rescue mission out to try to find the group.
All right.
So this is like, okay, maybe things are gonna be okay. Maybe things are gonna be okay. So remember though that like the rescue party, they're more qualified, they're well fed, they're relatively prepared, but they're still like traversing a
They're
snowy
not coming
mountain.
in with a helicopter.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Like they're walking like through a snowy mountain,
Yeah.
with whatever provisions they can carry
Yes.
during a time period when you're not supposed to walk through the snowy mountains. Like,
Right.
so this isn't an easy situation, but at least we're like, okay, we're getting some resources here. So they managed to make it to the lake and they found like, members of the Donner Party. They were starving to death and had been there now for like 3 months, just eating hides or or in some cases people. Um
Okay.
it took several rescue missions because, again, it was, like, just a few guys going and then
Yeah.
helping whatever people were strong enough to, like, kind of make the journey back with assistance. So
Mhm.
many were just, like, too sick or weak. They're like, "We still can't make it?" Um, and it was by the time of the second relief mission, this is now in March, that, it had been clear that cannibalism was occurring at the camps around the lake.
Sure.
Yes, and it's kind of like it's one of those things where you're like, "Oh, I don't." Many people were like, "Oh, we didn't do that." There was questions of like if there was any cannibalism that happened, but it's like it's pretty well documented in all of the like personal records that it happened.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and
A lot
it
of
was
diaries kept back then.
yes, and it
Yeah.
was like a like life or death. It was like we're
Sure.
we're doing this or we're dying.
Right.
It wasn't like "Oh, I'm just, like, hungry, I want something hearty."
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
want something other than, like, this tree branch I've been
This is
gnawing
the
on.
only option. Yeah.
Yes. So, we we hope to never find out what we would do in their shoes, but
Indeed.
it was extremely, extremely dire. But I want to do now because we've been talking about cannibalism and gloom and doom and forlorn hope. So I want to shift the focus to another hero in our story because just like with villains, we have multiple heroes in the story.
I love it.
So this man was part of one of the relief missions. He had no connection to the group that I found, and his name was John Stark.
It's a great hero name.
What a name. That is so Game of Thrones coded. We're like, okay,
Yes.
this is going to be a good guy. It's going to be a good
Yeah.
guy.
Mhm.
He found members of the Donner Party. Okay, so this is like it gets a little confusing because I had to trim down the story because this is already like I'm telling you a lot, but like I'm leaving out so much,
I
so much.
bet.
Um, so I want to try to explain this. Basically, like one of the rescue missions left, and then because the journey was so treacherous and people were so weak that like a group of that party that left with the first rescue mission like couldn't make it. So they were just left behind.
Ooh.
So they were left in what was called starved camp. That's what they called
Oh
it. Yes,
God.
just like they had this like little like fire and like this little hole in the snow, and we're just like
Oh
all laying there
no.
starving, starving to death. And so John Stark and his group, they went to the lake, they gathered more people, and then they came across starved camp and like the people who had just been like left for dead essentially, and were just like slowly dying out in the cold. And he was like, I'm not leaving you guys behind. I'm
Ugh,
not leaving a
love
single
him.
person behind. He carried the children one by one, would grab a child, take a few steps, put them down in the snow, walk back, grab the next child, walk them a few feet, put them down, like did this the entire way,
Wow.
literally carrying them
Wow.
foot by foot.
An actual hero.
I know, I can't believe it. Like, it makes me emotional. Like,
Yes.
just thinking, like, that's like masculinity right there. Like, there's
Yes.
so much
Yes.
toxic masculinity in this story. Like, that's a man
Mhm.
right there. Like, he
Sure
had the
is.
strength to be able to, like, save, like, he saved multiple people.
Ugh, I love that part.
I know, it's so good. Ugh, so good. I just, ugh. Just like, anytime. Anytime it gets about kids, I'm just like, I could, uh, it
Oh,
just so like what these people went through is so awful.
it
But like
really
there
is.
really is some like moments of like beautiful moments of the human
Yes.
spirit in here. Thank goodness.
Yes.
Goodness.
Yes.
Back to the treachery. So back
No.
back at Donner Lake, all this was going on. There were still people there. Okay, they've done multiple
Okay.
rescue missions.
Yep.
There's still a few stragglers, people that just like literally could not make the journey. So sadly, one of those people is our girl, Tamsin.
Oh
Now, she
no.
is not sick. She's actually doing okay, but she
Mhm.
is refusing to leave her husband, George, because he had cut his
Mm.
hand and it was like he was getting like sick and probably fighting infection.
What a different time.
Yeah, and she just was like, I won't leave you. She had multiple opportunities. They sent all their children on the way and were like, I hope you make it. Like, we'll meet you there soon. Like, and she was like, I'm staying with my man. Ugh. So there were the two of them, and then they were just kind of hoping that someone else would come. And unfortunately, that's kind of when like the goodwill of the rescue parties and all, like they just, there was no
No.
one, kind of no one else left for a little
Yeah.
while. And
Yeah.
when the next final rescue party eventually came, it was a full month later. So we're now in April. And at this point, the people who went there, from what I could gather, were less like rescuers, more like, let's see, like everyone's probably dead. Let's maybe see if they like have any cool stuff
Oh
we could
no. Oh, I
take.
hate it.
Yeah. But people were still alive. They were still there.
Okay.
Okay. So the lore surrounding this part of the story is again like pretty grotesque. So I'm just gonna like glaze over that part.
Great.
Um,
Good by me.
and it's also debated because like are we trusting like the one guy who I'm gonna tell you who survives, who's another villain in the story, or like the looters? I
Mhm.
don't know. Neither are like really reliable subjects. So let's talk about I think our last villain of the story. Louis
Okay.
Kesselberg.
Mm.
By all accounts, a bad guy. Another great
Mm.
villain name, right?
Yes, indeed.
If
Indeed.
I meant to put a picture of him in here because he looks like a serial killer.
Of
Legit.
course.
Legit. He looks so evil. So he was definitely like not a good guy, like all accounts. I wasn't there, I don't know what went on, but at one point in the journey he had refused to let an old man that they called Hardcoop get in his wagon. The old man was like, I can't make it, I can't keep up, like will you just let me sit in the wagon just for, like, for a few minutes and kind of catch my breath. This old elderly man, nope, nope,
Oh
no thanks.
no.
And old Hardcoop just eventually fell behind and was just like left for dead on the side of the road.
Of course.
In Kesselberg's defense, no one else said, sure, get in my wagon. But still, he was like kind of
No.
under his,
Mm-mm.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
kind of like under his, he was like part of his group,
Okay. They all suck
his
also. They all
responsibility. Well,
suck.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
but again, like, there's people being like, oh, I got my 3 kids and I can't have another,
Yeah.
it's hard to think that you would just let someone just go
Yes.
drift into the distance and starve to death on the side of the road, but whatever.
Yeah.
We weren't there again. He also had to be like physically restrained on multiple occasions from like beating his children and wife.
Oh,
So there's that.
awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
He also was the first guy after James Reed stabbed someone to death to be like, let's hang him. We should kill him.
Wow.
We should kill him. Yeah, like right away. He was like, we gotta die. So he was like,
Okay.
seemed a little bloodthirsty. He was choosing
Yes.
violence. So let's go back to the lake for our last part of the journey here. As I mentioned earlier, George Donner, he had been kind of knocking on death's door for a while, and
Yeah.
Louis Kesselberg also, like, I don't know why he was still there, but I guess he was just saying he was too weak to leave. I don't know. I have like other speculations as to why he was sticking around.
Weird.
Yeah, because like maybe he was too weak. I don't know. But we also had, of course, back here with the final few, Tamsin, tough as nails, Tiny Tamsin.
Yep.
She was actually like reported to be like doing fairly well when we last heard from Tamsin. Okay,
Right.
despite the circumstances, she was like relative as healthy as you could be, I think, in this given situation. She certainly did not seem like she was dying. When the final, I don't even know what we'll call them, party rescue, they weren't really rescuers. So the final group arrived at Donner Lake. George Donner was found dead. There was a single set of footprints leading away from where his body was
Oh.
that led to the only surviving person at Donner Lake, Louis Kesselberg. You might be asking, where's our girl Tamsin
I
in
am
all
asking
this?
that.
Here's a story according to Kesselberg.
Oh, no.
Tamsin had come to his cabin cold, wet, and crying. He said he provided her with comfort before she passed away.
Oh.
Then he openly admitted to eating her after she died.
Okay.
He
That's
also,
convenient.
it's not over, he also was found to have several of her belongings in his cabin.
Mm-mm.
And he had, at this point, it's April. The snow had thawed. There were multiple like frozen carcasses of like oxen and such available for him to eat. And he had
Cool.
chosen to eat her. He claimed adamantly for the rest of his life that he did not kill her, despite admitting to cannibalizing her.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. But we don't know. We don't know.
Sure.
Like I said, there are many other kind of grotesque details of other things he did that suggest that he had kind of like gotten a liking to
I mean, that's
cannibalism.
the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah. There's like a whole nother thing that like I can't even bring myself to tell you, that is like the fact that he had like detached himself from like people being people and that they weren't food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he made it back to California, and at least like I said, we don't know the full story. I think we feel pretty comfortable saying he was not a good guy. He cannibalizes someone when he didn't need to.
Yep.
According to the record. So that kind of tells you a lot of what you need to know. And so he was dubbed the Cannibal of Donner Pass. That's like how people knew him. It was like in the tabloids of the day.
That's rough.
So people like this is they associated him with this. And he kind of like became like a bit of a I want to say a haunted homebody. He was like homebound because of this ordeal. Like he did not leave the house. I
take issue with that. No.
No. What is like the word for like haunted in a derogatory way?
It just sounds like a recluse.
Yeah. Maybe he just like wouldn't leave the house because he would go out and people would be like, it's the Cannibal of Donner Pass.
Yeah, that's not a homebody. A homebody enjoys being home.
You're right.
He was forced to be.
I know. So he actually like had the audacity to then like sue the people, the like looter rescuer people who said that he murdered Tamsin Donner. So he like sued them for defamation. I think he might have won actually his case. But it didn't matter. Like, he was guilty in the eyes of the world. His life was kind of just awful. He was, like you said, a recluse. Um, I will say that one of Tamsin's daughters, like Tamsin's daughters all seemed like very like her, like very wholesome,
It's not
spiritual.
surprising.
So like
Yeah.
they did not believe that Kesselberg like murdered their mother.
Oh.
But at least one of them, I don't know about all of them. I think one of them said that. But, they might have also just been like trying to like grasp onto like a little sliver of like decency and hoping that like their mother's end wasn't like tragic or murder. So it
Yeah.
was probably easier for them to believe that like she died peacefully while someone took care of her and not an alternative. But like we'll never know the truth, unfortunately.
Wow.
And of the 87 members of the Donner Party, just 48 survived, which kind of seems like a lot given everything I just
I'm
told
like
you.
actually amazed by
I
that
know.
number.
Yeah, I know. So like several made it to California. So a real story of heroics and survival in a lot of way. And to end on a somewhat happier note, even though George and Tamsin tragically died at the base of what is now called the Donner Pass, all 5 of their daughters made it safely to California and would go on to have 17 children collectively.
And I feel like that's why they set out, was for their
Yeah.
daughters to have a better life.
Have a better life. And they,
That's
for better or
lovely.
worse, died sticking together. I mean, I think like, when you like think of life choices and you're like, I want to like go to sleep. Usually it's just like I want to go to sleep, like knowing that like I did the right thing today.
Yes,
Like I feel like she had
right.
the ultimate moment of like I
Yep.
did what I wanted to do. We kept our children safe, but I stood by my husband's side till the very, very
What a
end.
woman.
Ugh, Tamsin, love you, girl.
Yes.
That's it. That's the story of the Donner Party.
Oof.
That's part 1. There's more to come
Whoa.
about the Donner Pass and a little bit of haunted. I can't imagine why this area would be haunted. Oh no.
No.
Who could
Seems
imagine
unlikely
that?
to
But
me.
like I said, read The Indifferent Stars Above. It's a great book. Obviously, a ton of like really, really interesting information if you want more to the story. And that was a lot of like US kind of history, haunted history, but we'll get to a little more paranormal next week. It was kind of like a fun little historical sidebar.
I loved it. And I feel like the paranormal part of it, like, I don't know that part yet, but I feel like without that context, it wouldn't be as rich.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was like going into the paranormal stuff, and I was like, well, without telling this, it's like it would be like literally one paragraph of like, but it's like then when you hear all the
Yeah.
stuff of like why everything that's happened in this area, it's like, it would be hard for
Right.
anyone to believe that there wasn't at least like bad vibes here.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just like an incredible story. I like honestly can't believe it's real.
I know. I can't believe that 48 people survived that.
I know.
That's insane.
I know.
That's crazy.
And lived, their lives in California. The California dream. They made it.
Oh.
Yeah. So next week, Sarah, I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about the haunted history of the Donner Pass, some modern day hauntings, and we'll see you over there.
Can't wait.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of Haunted Homebodies. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
And remember, when in doubt, just stay home.